Hey guys, so we're going to be going on to our next lesson in our percentages topic that we've been going through, but we're going to do the starters first. If you haven't attempted them yourself, just pause just now, give them a little shot, and then go through them. Now, they're both quadratic equations that we've got to solve, and that was the first topic that we done once the school was closed. So I actually thought it was quite important that I can give you the answer to the starters so that you can just double check. Now, when it comes to quadratic equations, there are two ways to solve. Our first, we can factorize and then set equal to 0 and find our x value. Or second, we can use our quadratic formula. Now, when it comes to these questions, there's kind of surefire way to tell whether we're going to do the quadratic formula or whether we're going to factorize. So for the first one, we've just got set equal to 0. We've got x squared take 11x plus 18. Now, always check if you can factorize first. It makes your life much, much easier later on. And then if we do have to use the quadratic formula, then we know we've tried everything already. So with our factorizing, we've got three rules. Is there a common factor? Is it a difference of two squares? Is it a trinomial? Now, looking at x squared minus 11x and plus 18, there isn't anything I can take out in common. Obviously, it can all be divided by 1, but that's not going to change my answer at all. And the fact it's got three terms means instantly it's not a difference of two squares, so it has to be our trinomial. Now, when we're doing trinomials, we have a look at this end value here because there's no number in front of the x squared. We have a look at this plus 18. Now, because we're multiplying to get a positive, it means our signs have to be the same. They either both have to be negative or they both have to be positive. So we're looking for a factor that multiplies to give 18, and then we're going to add to give negative 11. Now, I've not put in the table because we've done so many factorizings throughout the whole of the course so far. However, if you're still not certain, do our table. We can do our factor on the left hand side and then our plus minus on the right. It really doesn't matter. So our factors we're going to have here are 9 and 2. They both have to be negative because we're looking for that negative 11, and that will give us our plus 18. Now, once we've done that, we're going to split it up. So we'll have either x take 9 equals 0 or x take 2 equals 0. And then to get rid of negative 9, we need to do the opposite. So we're going to add it on. And the same for negative 2. So our final answer will be x equals 9, x equals 2. Now, for this next question, we've got solve x squared plus 3x minus 5 equals 0, and it's to 2 decimal places. So here, oh, no, this is your most important part here. 2 decimal places. I'll work out the pens later on. If it's saying to 2 decimal places, it has to be the quadratic formula. I know you are all brilliant. However, even I cannot factorize to 2 decimal places. I'm sure even Mr. Edwards cannot factorize to 2 decimal places. So instantly, if we see that 2 decimal places to 1 decimal place, it has to be our quadratic formula. Now, you are given it on the formula sheet. So this is it here now. Triple and double check that you've copied it down correctly. The amount of people that miscopy it and then lose marks in their question, it's not worth it. So we've got minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared take 4ac all over 2a. And then we have a look at our formula. The value in front of the x squared, there's nothing. But if there's nothing, we all know that means 1. So a has to be 1. Our value in front of our x is our b, so b is plus 3. And then our number on the outside is going to be our c. So a is 1, b is 3, c is minus 5. Our next step, we're going to substitute it in. So rather than minus b, I've now got minus 3. Rather than plus or minus b squared, I've got 3 squared. And then 4 times 1 times negative 5. Now notice here, if you've got a negative, we need to put it inside the bracket so that we do not forget it's there. This negative here and this negative here are going to cancel out to make a positive. If you forget to put that minus in for the 5, it means you're going to have 9 subtract 20, which will give you negative 11. Now, we cannot have a negative inside a square root. You can't just be like, oh, it shouldn't be there, so I'm just going to ignore it. So we have to make sure you always put in your negatives there. So if we simplify it, we're going to get minus 3 plus or minus the square root of 29 with those two negatives cancelling to make a positive. And then we're going to split them up. Now, I've attempted very poorly to put in brackets on the top line. So what I want you to put your calculators in a bracket, minus 3 plus root 29, close your bracket, all divided by 2. And then minus 3 minus root 29, all in a bracket, all divided by 2, so that we get the order of operations correct. Now we should get equals 1.1925, and notice I've got dot, dot, dot. You have to show your unrounded answer before we can round it to our 2 decimal places for both. If you do not show your unrounded answer, you're actually going to lose a mark. Now, as I say, this is not in the PDF because I wanted you to try it yourself. So you can come back, you can pause this, have a little look, make sure it's right, and then we go on to our next part. Now, we're going to the actual topic that we're going to do now. So we're looking at percentages. Now, before separately yourself, you've had a look at percentage increases or decreases and changing it to a multiplier, and then had a look at compound interest. Now, that's actually where we're going to pause. We're not going to go on to the original amount because that's for the field topic, rather than what we're looking at today. Today we're looking at what's called appreciation and depreciation, which really is just a sidestep of compound interest. Now we've got here appreciation and depreciation are titled. So when the value of something rises over time, it is said to appreciate. So compound interest, that is appreciation. We call it compound interest so we get used to the compound aspect of it happening every single year, but it's exactly the same. So example 1, Sebastian leaves £3,000 in the bank for 2 years. It earns compound interest, notice the actual phrase there, of 2% per year. Normally we'd have PA for per annum, but I've extended it out just so we don't get stuck with the language. And then calculate the total amount Sebastian has in the bank at the end of 2 years. So our first step, because it's interest, we're going to add on, so it'll be 100% plus 2 equals 102%. And we're going to change that to a multiplier by dividing by 100 to get 1.02. And then our last line before we put our calculator, we've got 3,000, our initial value, times 1.02. Now notice I've got this power of 2, or this squared here. The only reason it's squared is because we want the value at the end of 2 years. It's always the number of years that we are looking at for our power. And then when I put that in my calculator, I get 3,121.2. If I leave that as my final answer, it is wrong. We have to have 2 decimal places in our answer, or else we're not following the general money rules. You wouldn't go into normal shops and have 3,121.2 pounds. It's not right. We have the 20 pence. So we have to put in our extra line there, so £3,121 and 20 pence is your final answer. Now it's going to shock you to know that here appreciation was when the value of something rises over time. Therefore depreciation is when the value of something falls over time. So a car was bought for £18,000. Its value depreciated by 15% each year for the first 3 years. What was its value at the end of the 3 years? So again, our first step, starting at 100%, we're always going to start there. And then because it depreciates, it's gone down, so subtract 15 equals 85%. Divide that by 100 to get our 0.85 as our multiplier. Then, final line before we put it all in our calculator, we have 18,000 times our multiplier to the power of 3. Again, we're using the power of 3 or cubed because it's the end of 3 years. And then in this case, when it came up in my calculator, it already had 2 decimal places. It didn't need to be rounded. So we find to just put that as our final answer. And then example number 3. Fiona leaves £1,600 in the bank for 4 years. It earns compound interest of 4% each year. Calculate the total amount Fiona has in the bank at the end of the 4 years. So again, first thing we're going to do, compound interest, we're adding on. So 100 plus 4 to give us 104%. And then change to a multiplier 1.04. Then we'll have 1,600 times 1.04, and this time to the power of 4. Now, depending on your calculator, it depends how you're actually going to put that in. If you've got a Casio, you're going to use a button that says x to the power of and then has a blank square. If you put that blank square, then you can put in any power you want. You can put in the number 4. So it depends on your calculator, depends what you've got. If you're not certain how to put in your calculator, please actually just send me what type of calculator you've got. I'll have a look online, see what it looks like, and then get back to you and let you know what buttons to push just to make your life a little bit easier. If you don't have a scientific calculator, then I think you can do it on your iPhone. But if you don't get your final answer, as long as you get your line up to it, then we can work with that. Now, hopefully that's helped you. If you've got stuck, please send me an email. That's what I'm here for. I'm sitting by my computer waiting on all these emails, which are slow coming. And I'm making the assumption that we're fine. But if you're not fine, just ask. Now, we've got our textbook. If you don't have your textbook, it's in the assignment under files. Not the assignment, sorry, the Teams under files, and then you can get the PDF there. So it's page 26, question 1 to 8. Now, one thing I would ask, make sure you check your answers just like we do in class, so that you know if you're right, and if you're not right, then you can ask me why it's wrong. Okay?